What's cheaper, buying and playing one of these PlayStation exclusive video games or building Commander deck about one? Let's get into it. Shout out to Dragon Shield. You can get 5% off your order using my code linked below. Also want to shout out Baron of Dice. You can use my code as well for 5% off. Thanks to them for sponsoring this video, and let's jump right in. All right, I'm not building a deck for each one of these yet. We're going to be doing this one, Horizon, and not actually this one. We're going to be doing Forbidden West, because that's the one that they gave us a layer of, and I only have a digital copy of that, so I can't do the bit with that box. You get it. But we are going to build Aloy, and the thing we're going to try and do is see whether or not we can beat the value proposition of just buying the video game, because that's a decision people have to make sometimes. It's like, should I buy the video game? Should I get that amount of time and enjoyment out of it, or should I spend that money on a Commander deck and getting my hours and time and fun playing Commander? First things first, we have to compare prices, because it's not going to be really apples to apples unless we're paying the same amount of money. Non-foil for one of these layers was going for $39.99. So let's just go see how much the game costs and see how much money we'll have left over to build the rest of the deck with. Now, okay, so the game only costs $29.99, so we're in the hole $10. Okay, new plan. We're gonna say we're buying the complete version of Horizon Forbidden West, and that cost $59.99. So I present $59.99 Aloy. We're gonna use the layer, which cost me $39.99. So I have exactly $20 left to work on this deck. Let me show you what I came up with. Building Aloy, she's 5 mana, Vigilance, Reach, 3/5, and she says, hey, whenever you attack with one or more artifact creatures, you discover X, where X is the greatest power. So the game plan that I'm going with is just play big dumb artifact creatures to discover into bigger dumber artifact creatures. We can kind of just do like a cheap Simic value plan. We can keep it down low on the cost and just churn big bodies onto the battlefield and hopefully make it really difficult to deal with. I like 12 card advantage spells in the deck. I like to do a mix of value engines, so stuff that synergizes with what you're doing. So Bident of Thassa is a good example. I want to attack with creatures and do combat damage, so when I do combat damage I get to draw a card. That's great. I have a couple other value plays. Garrick's Uprising cares about having big creatures. We care about having big creatures anyway, and it gives our creatures trample, so that's helpful. And then we have some other stuff in here that I think is cool. Intrude the Mind is just a cool kind of dig spell. Kind of hits a little bit of all the things we're trying to do. Factor Fiction is a go-to for me. Deep Analysis is good as well. We want a little bit of burst card draw. We want a little value card draw. The only thing we splurged on is the Uthros Research Craft, because it basically just says every time we cast an artifact, we're going to draw a card. The other reason we spent a good amount of money of our budget, at least, on this card is because in Simic colors we don't have access to cranial plating, we don't have access to cranial ram, so there are only like a handful of cards that care about having a ton of artifacts on the battlefield for buffing power. This is one of them, and we definitely want to put it in the deck. Having flying is also super nice. It lets us do something that we typically don't get with Simic or even a lot of green style decks. We don't have a lot of flying creatures or reach creatures. This deck actually has quite a bit of flying, so we don't just get run over in the air like a lot of decks tend to do when they're in these colors. Next up is lands. I put 36 in here. Maybe we should be at 37, but 36 seems fine, especially on the budget. We're not playing anything too crazy here. I'm not even playing all of my favorite bounce lands just because we literally didn't have the budget. We spent $3 on the mana base, and that's probably even too much. We have a couple fixers here. We have a single Simic Growth Chamber. We do have the Tanglepool Bridge, which I do like. It is an artifact and it's indestructible, so that's really nice. Obvious upgrades here would be Tree of Tales and Seat of the Synod. And amongst other things, obviously, you can juice this mana base up quite a lot. We spent barely anything on it, but the notable stuff is we are still running Demo Field because we have to be responsible land destruction gamers, as well as Scavenging Grounds because the graveyard is getting way too powerful these days. Aside that, we got a Buried Ruin to bring back artifacts from the graveyard. The other big include here is Rogue's Passage because we do want to be attacking, and sometimes we just need to get a big beater in for the win. Moving on to the main collection of cards, and what I put in main is basically anything that jives with the main game plan here. What are we trying to do? Go wide artifacts, big beefy artifacts. Other notable cards in here: Adaptive Omnitool, Brotherhood Vertibird, Emissary Escort, and Nettlecyst. These are the other cards that care about how many artifacts you have on the battlefield. Super important to this game plan, so we spent a couple bucks here and there on each of those. Nothing crazy, but that is definitely where we spent some money. Earth Rumbler I really like. A Vigilance Trample Vehicle. Aloy can crew it herself, so you don't have to worry about getting another separate creature on the battlefield. Notable big hitter out of this, we've got Blightsteel Colossus that came came in the secret lair, so I'm not counting that against my budget, even though it's a pretty expensive card. We already technically paid for it, so we're not going to count it against our $20. Obviously, huge win con here. Works great with the Rogue's Passage, trying to swing that bad boy in. Other card in the lair, Tarian Soul Cleaver. Basically, when creatures die, you get to put +1/+1 counters on the equipped creature. It goes fine in the deck. It's nothing crazy. It's a nice little value piece. So, but we bought the lair. We're going to include it. Other card that I really like here is Sojourner's Companion. It can either be a 4/4 beater artifact creature, but we can land cycle it, and we know we have a duel in the deck that we can go snag with that. So that's really nice. Or you can always, if you do upgrade the deck and put in the other 2 artifact lands, you can do that, or more artifact lands. There's a bunch of artifact lands you can put in. Other nice win con in here is Kappa Cannoneer. Ramp package is, I would say, half standard, half not. We've got your classic Arcane Signet. We've got Rampant Growth. Farseek comes in the secret lair, so we don't have to pay for that one. That's really nice. We've got Sad Robot and a Mind Stone. Notably missing is Soul Ring because it cost over $1, and I just didn't have the budget for it. I was looking for other things to cut. Everything else was so cheap. The only thing else I would cut would have been the main big buff artifacts that cost $2, and I didn't want to cut any of those. So, I decided to cut Soul Ring. So far, have not missed it. We do get to run some cool cards. The Larval Scoutlander is basically Harrow on a pseudo vehicle stick, but it flies and it's an artifact. So eventually, if you turn it on, you can get in there with it, and that triggers Aloy, and that's what we're trying to do. Another awesome include here, Lumbering World Wagon. If you haven't seen this card is awesome. It ETBs. You get to put a basic land onto the battlefield tapped and then shuffle, and whenever you attack with it, you can also do that. Whenever you play this card, it will at least be a 4/4 because it will go get a land, and on attack it will be a 5/4. If you made your land drop that turn, it'll be a 6/4. So it is a solid not only ramp engine right at the start, but it continually gets you extra mana, and we're trying to play a lot of big stuff with this deck. Obviously we want to discover into them, but you will have games where you just end up drawing those cards, and when that happens, it's nice to be able to have the mana to play that stuff. The other 2 cards in here that I really like, just like Sad Robot, I like Clifftop Lookout, I like Farhaven Elf. While they aren't the most on-rate land ramp cards, I really value getting a body with the ramp because Aloy is on 5 mana. All the other main card stuff we're trying to do are all big, huge creatures, so being able to put some chump blockers down in the way of everything is really helpful, especially Clifftop Lookout has reach, so you're not going to get dinged by little 1z-2z combat effects. It really does help delay the game and let you get more set up and not be at 15 life when you finally get your engine going. Then we've got some mass removal. I'm playing Aetherize and Aether Spouts in the deck. I really like these removal effects. It basically only punishes people if they're coming at you. Otherwise, you don't actually have to remove anything. Obviously, weaker to combo and non-combat style decks, but for those, we have Extinguisher Battleship as well as Navinral's Disc. Does Navinral's Disc kind of suck? Yeah. Then we move on to removal. I've got 7 pieces of single target removal here, but they're pretty solid. I quite like them. We've got Commander Staple Acidic Slime back in the mix. It's a solid blocker. It destroys literally everything you could probably want it to destroy. Does it cost 5 mana? Yeah, it's very expensive. But, again, we get a body that no one really wants to attack through if they don't have a way to deal with Death Touch. Aether Spell Bomb, it's a cool bounce spell. It also doubles as an artifact, and you can cantrip it in a pinch. Bushwhack is a good way to find your land or use one of your big beaters to fight something down. Disruption Protocol, we actually couldn't afford Counterspell or Arcane Denial, so we are playing Disruption Protocol. Should it be a negate? Maybe, but there's so many creatures that you want to counter. Like, I used it to counter Corvold last night because Corvold is obviously a huge problem, and I didn't want to play against it. So, Disruption Protocol, we had a ton of extra artifacts I could tap to pay the extra 1, so it was essentially just Counterspell. Obviously, it's worse. If you can afford Counterspell, just put Counterspell in. But we're trying to stick to $59.99, baby. After that, we've got Mearshell Crab. Again, this is a cool artifact creature, so it can get in, get beats, trigger Aloy, or you can just channel this to counter a spell or ability unless the controller pays 3. It's a cool little gotcha, and unless they're running Stifle effects, this is uncounterable. And then finally, we've got the Meteor Golem, the Thunderjaw. Again, part of the lair, looks sick. It's fine. It's a 7 mana 3/3. It still triggers Aloy, but yeah, it's in the lair. We're going to play all the lair cards. We paid for them. Rounding out the deck, I've got some utility cards here. If you played Horizon games before, you'll know that kind of one one of the tech trees is being able to take control of the robots in the game. You can use them to do your bidding, be your mounts, etc., etc. I thought that would be a fun thing to do, like pay a little homage to. So we dedicated 4 slots to some mind control effects. It lets you kind of scale your deck against, so if you're playing against decks that are playing way better stuff than you can just take them, which is really nice. And these cards are hilarious to discover into. Also, if you haven't buffed up your guys, if you want to get in with Solemn Simulacrum, if you want to get in with like a 1/1 Thopter that you've made, you can always cast Inevitable Betrayal using those attacks, which is really cool with the Discover mechanic. Then we've got Invoke the Wind's Mind Control, like the classic OG Mind Control, and Volatile Stormdrake, actually kind of cool. 2 cards I like to play. Thopter Spy Network lets you make those little 1/1 Thopters if you already control an artifact. Not that hard. It also lets you draw cards as you deal combat damage, so that's really nice too. It kind of does everything we want to do in this deck. It makes bodies to attack with or chump block, and it lets us draw cards to further the game plan. And Whirler Rogue, again, it also makes 2 bodies, and you can tap 2 untapped artifacts to make anything unblockable, which is really, really important in this deck. Putting all of this together, we come in just under $19.99. The deck will probably increase in price as I'm filming this, because of course it will. $20 worth of cards to build out $59.99 Aloy Saver of Meridian. As you can see here, I have her. I actually have the whole deck is in here. Not real cards. I don't want to just sell you some theory crafted Moxfield virtual list that no one's ever playtested before. Printed out the list. We did a bunch of playtesting with it. I played like 5 or so games with the deck. It's a ton of fun to play. It stumbles sometimes, but for the most part, you get to do the thing you're trying to do, which is put big dumb creatures on the battlefield, and a lot of times you'll just get the Blightsteel and win the game, or someone will drag you into the fires of Mount Doom because Jank only has eyes for me and definitely wants to kill me every single time we play this game. I had a ton of fun building it. It was super fun trying to stick to the list, and I would say so far I'm well on my way to making this deck very much worth the cost of a PlayStation game. That's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like, please subscribe. If you enjoy this content, we'll be talking about more secret layers coming soon, because apparently we have even more super drops coming in November, but I will cover those soon, so stay tuned, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.